So, I think our next performer is still adjusting his audio setting. So
I see.
I saw a question coming from the audience actually.
Yes.
So why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
So an audience asked, do you look at the music when you mental practice, and does mental practice also make you tired? How would you answer to that?
Well, obviously, I look at the music when I do score study, but when I'm doing mental practice, I don't actually look at the music. I actually close my eyes a lot of the times to help that sense of focus. And yes, mental practice can be tiring because it's like a lot of effort. You feel like your brain is on fire. It's a lot of energy. Even if you're just sitting in a chair, it's a lot of concentration. So just like with practice, you don't want to be sitting at the piano for 2 hours straight. You want to get up after like 50 minutes, an hour, move around, relax, drink some water, check social media if you want, whatever. So same with mental practice. Don't push yourself to try to do too much in one go, because that can be hard. So pace yourself. Try just being focused for 10 minutes at a time first, then 20 minutes, then 30 minutes. Like with any new skill, you'll take time to adjust to it and take it in bite-sized portions. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. It looks like our next performer is ready in the waiting room.
Okay, great.
So let's admit him and get him set up. Here we go. Hello, Baishui.
Hi.
How's it going?
Great.
All right. Can you see us?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Nicholas, why don't you take it over?
Oh, yes, sure. So please just, run through the movement and then we'll just talk about it after.
Okay.
Bravo. Okay, great job. Okay, again, I'm having a lot of trouble hearing what's going on. I have a feeling that there's overload protection on all of these microphones. Whenever you play really loudly, then kind of it compensates and gets rid of the sound. But I think I have an idea what's going on. So I'll do my best to address what I think we might want to work on. But again, my idea of what you're playing is very, very fuzzy. So forgive any judgments in error. Really, really great. I really like your energy and momentum. You're going at it with a lot of kind of passion. I think that no matter how much energy or passion or momentum we might have when we play, we always have to have somewhere in the back of our head a cold, calculating part. Even if we're super into it, something that keeps things in control. I feel that sometimes, you so get into it that the notes start flying, and the really important thing in this piece is to have an ironclad sense of pulse, so that and that you have this hyper articulation in all of the 16th notes. Don't let them just fall and tumble. You have to keep this tension inside. Don't be like like a horse that escaped from the stable and is just galloping around town being chased by the police. You need to have this sense of tension throughout. Don't let your fingers just run off. Okay, so it's really important to keep things as tight as possible in terms of pulse. And one of the important things in this regard is I have a feeling that sometimes you're playing a passage and you start thinking about the next passage. So you kind of like wrap up have we lost Baishui?
Yeah, I think he disconnected for some reason.
I see.
We will we'll try to get him. I'll turn on my video and I guess we'll chat a little bit. I think he was already having trouble with internet.
I know that his picture froze for a while, so I thought I was talking to a statue for a while. I thought, like, what's going on?
Right, but you can still, comment on his performance to our audience who are watching.
Yes, sure. I mean, it happens with a lot of us that, when we get really excited, then, things start accelerating, but it's important to keep that energy. And one thing that I felt in the performance was that, you're playing one passage, and then, of course, you have to think about the next thing that's going to happen. But if you do that, what's important is not to forget what you're currently playing. Because what would happen sometimes is, you're playing, you think about the next thing, and then you kind of wrap up whatever you're doing without much thought because your mind is already in the next bar or two bars. So you shouldn't let that happen. You should make sure that you can finish properly the phrase, the idea, and practice simply moving from one idea to the next, which you have to do in Beethoven so often, as quickly as possible. But don't just be playing and then you move to the next thing and you kind of rush the ending of the previous phrase. That's a bad habit, and something that you really need to be conscious about when you're practicing.
Right. So how does one when one is playing something and you have to hear and listen to what you're doing at the present moment, and you also have to predict and think about the future. How does one balance the two and really find time to do both?
Well, I think that playing the piano, especially because you have so many things to think about, is like the ultimate multitasking.
Right.
You have to listen. You have to play, first of all. You have to then listen to what you're playing, adjust your playing depending on your oral feedback, and you have to think about what you're playing. You have to think about what you're doing next. Obviously, thankfully, we have practicing in order to make many physical things automatic. We don't need to think about every note we're playing when we perform because we've practiced this many times. These motions are automatic. So, I'm going to say what I've been talking about all day. Today's mental practice will, of course, help you in these kinds of things, getting used to thinking about one thing and moving to the next passage with the next idea in mind without causing any problems in what you're actually doing at the moment, without sacrificing the integrity of the phrase you're finishing because you're trying to think about the next thing. And you really have to get used to having many things in your mind at the same time. You're thinking about what's coming next, but you are still focusing on the sound you're producing in the moment. You have to be able to balance this. And if you're having trouble doing that at the piano, then stepping away from the piano and imagining this process in your head will help you get a new perspective on how you might be able to achieve this.
Gotcha. That's very, very helpful. That's something that I try to tell my students too, that always have a game plan of the overall structure, not just
Absolutely.
whatever you're working, whatever you're playing at the moment.
And, I find that we always have more time than we think we do when we play. When we're playing, we think, oh, this next thing, oh, this next thing, oh, this next thing. But actually, we have way more time than we think, because when we play, time actually slows down. We speed up. So when we think time is moving normally, we're moving actually faster than we should be. I find that, like in a performance of mine, if I take more time than I think I should be taking, when I listen back, I say, oh, that was just right.
Right.
And especially when you're playing not only with an ensemble, but especially with an orchestra, which is always behind and always slower. And, you just need to breathe and open up and think of time in a really different way, because when we have the adrenaline rush, you're excited, you're in a different state of mind, we just work much faster than we do otherwise, so we have to get used to compensating for this. It's really important. So that's something I'd always tell, someone I happen to be, coaching or guiding. You have much more time than you think you do.
Right, and I find that myself too. When I ask my students to exaggerate something, let's say you take more time there, exaggerate it, and usually the exaggerated version is the correct version sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that our own feedback regarding what we're playing when we're on stage is very unreliable a lot of the time, because we can be in a very specific state of mind. And I find it's often influenced by how prepared I am and how well I know the piece as well. If I know it super well, I usually think I'm playing worse than I actually am, because I expect so much of myself. So your perception on how you're playing is so subjective, changes in the moment depending on how you slept that day, how prepared. Yeah, so many things affected. So even if we think things aren't going well, we should never listen to that inner monologue ever, because it's so unreliable.
Right.
And secondly, yeah, our perception of time is so distorted when we're excited that, that's something we should always keep in mind. And that's also something you can bring into your mental practice. Imagine yourself playing, feeling like you have all the time in the world, feeling like you're not following, any kind of sense of, I'm on a train that's not stopping, but you feel like I can take time, no one's going anywhere. I can just play with, not only at the piano, but I can play with time,
Right.
in a much more comfortable way.
Just to relate to our topic, what kind of mental practice do you think Baishui could have benefited from for improving his Appassionata practice? What kind of he's here. I think he's connected with his phone this time, and I guess you can tell him that to him.
Okay.
All right.
Well, okay. I don't know if Baishui could hear our conversation.
Okay.
But
I just admitted him.
Okay, great.
Inside. Yes. But yeah, I would be curious myself, what specific steps he should take. Hi, you're back.
Hi, Baishui. Yeah.
Right.
So
Baishui, we were Nicholas is going to talk about his suggestions on how you could mentally practice your Beethoven your Appassionata. Can you hear us, Baishui?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so because we were talking about mental practice earlier, and Brian said, okay, so in this situation, how would mental practice help? And I think imagining yourself playing the piece and keeping a very strict pulse, like hearing almost like a metronome in your head, would really help you find that sense of space and not let yourself like get lost in the 16th notes. Like to keep the bigger picture of the pulse that's following you throughout the piece. It's really important in this piece, in the first movement as well, and in the last movement, to keep that structural framework. I'm not saying you should play metronomically, but I do think that, if you have like a 16th note passage that's a little bit easier, you start playing faster. When it gets a little hard, you slow down. You don't want that to happen. You want the pulse to stay strict and that the notes fit inside that kind of frame, okay? It's really important. One thing I was telling, Brian, when we were discussing your performance is when you're finishing a phrase, don't start thinking about the next phrase in a way that prevents you from finishing what you're actually playing properly. Sometimes I feel like you're playing something, you start thinking about the next thing, and you just rush the end of the phrase, because your mind is already in the next bar or next page. Don't let yourself do that. Make sure that you are able to focus enough on what you're actually doing so that it doesn't get forgotten about, okay?
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's one of the hardest problems I need to hand out, I think.
Yeah, I know. Well, look, it's something we need to practice, and maybe stepping away from the piano sometimes will help you feel like, okay, I'm thinking about this phrase. I know the next thing is coming, but I'm gonna finish this, and I have plenty of time to move to the next thing. I know this part, and then you need to jump. You think oh, I have so little time, I have to rush, blah, blah, blah. But you have way more time than you think. When you play, you're excited and you think that you need to hurry, but you don't. You have much more time than you think. Take your time. No one is gonna come after you if you take a little bit more time. It's better to take more time a little bit than to rush too much, okay?
Okay.
So I also think that sometimes you need to follow through with the notes a little more, believe in them until the end, not just when you play them. But generally, I don't understand why you are playing this so short. Why are you playing it so short, actually? There's no staccato, it's a quarter note. Why, it's it sounds like a hiccup, but it sounds too funny. This it could be in a different Beethoven sonata, maybe that's has more humor. But this is not funny. This is deadly serious. This is you're fighting for your life. So it's really important to keep that tension and imagine that the note is actually crescendoing into the end, so that the silence is actually even louder. It's not but you keep that tension through the end of the note, okay? And not just to these, but to many other kinds of expressions in this piece as well. I just use this as an example. Could you just start from the top, and we can work through a couple of specific spots. We don't have much time left, but let's try, okay?
You mean the...
Or if you just go from the beginning, that's fine. Okay. So why is this so short? Beethoven actually marks a pedal through the beat. Actually, if you look at the score, why are you just cutting it off so fast? You're already moving to the next thing. You should commit to that note until the end. And also don't hiccup. It's not drunk. It's agitated. It's tense. Those notes have to have this inner life. Don't just cut them off. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, so better, but one thing that will really help you is, this is a very bad, pianist habit. The pedal can extend the length of our notes. So what we do is we play and we take our hands off. Keep your hands on the notes until the end of the note. use the pedal for the sound, but not to determine the end of the note. So, sorry. That will help you decide more clearly what your interpretation is, rather than just and letting your foot do the work. No, do it with your hands. The pedal is not there to change the length of the note. It's there for the sound. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. One last time, and I won't stop you this time. Okay, so, I can't go into much detail. We just don't have much time. You still do the a couple of times, but it's getting better, okay? Make sure you so that, then the break, the rest is more breathless. There's kind of this tension, this sense of unease that you have to create. Okay, when you have these notes, you're playing them very easily, but papam, papam, it has to fit in with this tatim rhythm, okay? Don't make it, they're not grace notes, the little notes. Tatam, tatam, like the same, it's the same, the thing. Papi, papi, not easy. Nothing should be easy in this piece. Everything has to be fought for. And, I'd ask you generally, when you practice this later, for your 16th notes, when they're piano, to be both quieter, but at the same time more intense. Now they sound kind of mezzo forte and quite easy. But I want this hyper articulated. Maybe you need to do it a little more non-legato because they blend into each other too much. And especially in these kinds of things, you want to practice so you get the kind of so that they don't, you don't want that, okay? You want to have that intensity in each note so that, but they shouldn't sound, at the same dynamic level. Don't iron out the differences. There are little motions always in every 16th note. It's not okay? Like this inner life is so necessary in all these little figurations in this piece. Okay, that's where you're gonna get the tension, not by playing it fast or loud, but by that inner energy in between the notes. Okay, so again, we don't have much time to go into details there. So if you can just start from like and like keep going. So like around bar 40 or 45, something like that. This area. If you can go from there, that would be great. Okay, so first of all, when you go you need the listener needs a moment to feel that we ended the phrase. So don't feel like you have to go da 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 and just rush into the next thing. Finish it. Da dee da dee. Okay, like give yourself like split second there. You just need it to make clear the structure. This next part. I feel like it drags a little bit, maybe because the left hand is a bit difficult. Like it slows down a little. What is the left hand essentially? What is it doing here? Is it melodic?
No.
No. What is it doing? What's the function?
It's like make a harmony of the.
Oh, exactly. It's a harmony. Okay. So I don't need to hear. I don't need to hear all the notes so that make it a kind of tremolo. You know, it's not that important. It's not as important as your right hand, which has the melodic material. I think it will help you keep the pulse if you don't try to play all the notes so present. Make it more light, a bit more in the background, you know, and that will make it easier. But this motion, like your two outer fingers versus the inner fingers, should feel very natural. It's like grabbing something. You can just practice paka, 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 paka. So you shouldn't feel like you're activating different fingers. It's like a hand motion. So don't try to like isolate your fingers, because then it's gonna be hard. It should just feel like grabbing something. Paka, 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 paka. Yeah, and dry and light and not so. Otherwise, it's too present and it obscures the rest of the texture. It feels like I hear the orchestra more than I hear the soloist. You know, so you don't want. Yes, so don't change the proportions there, and I think that will help you keep the speed as well. We've already reached the end of the slot, but just keep playing a little more because we had a connection problem just to get at least to the end of the section. Could you go from there? Better. Okay. So the last things I'll say, it's really important that you follow the dynamic markings here. Do not crescendo, and then you have to fade out. So that, you know, then that sforzando, you know, really comes, because you're kind of flattening out the dynamics here. Everything is kind of loudish, but we don't have those moments, you know, which is really important. And you're doing the same thing here. And then you just jump into the next thing, you know, bam, give yourself time. Don't be rushing into the next thing. Don't be impatient. You have more time than you think. Okay? Can you just try this stretch once again? You know, maybe from that section. Okay, I think that's a good place to come to a halt. I think I'll get in trouble if we keep going, but great job. You're already, you know, I think it's improving a lot already, and I think you know in which direction to take this piece. Remember, you know, the integrity of the pulse is important. Try to develop the intensity in this 16th note passage work. Really find why Beethoven wrote it the way he did. Bring out these shapes. Don't let it just become like filler 16th notes, and make sure you know what's important, what isn't important, and give everything the time it needs for the listener to really understand the musical material. Okay? But great job, and I wish you all the best with this piece. Wonderful.
Great job. Great
Okay.
performance, Baishui. We'll see you next time. Let's
Thank
see. All right. And I just want to apologize to you and to our audience for that internet
Oh no,
breakup.
What can we do? Yeah,
but I think in a way it kind of symbolizes the spirit of this series, which is
Sure.
we provide this platform for literally everyone. These are piano lovers out there who may not otherwise have the opportunity to have access to
Sure.
really great artists. Really, I mean it. Great artists like you.
Well,
And,
no, thank you.
and
It's a
I
pleasure.
think-
It really is.
yeah. So in a way, yeah, we have to anticipate these internet problems. But I just want to say thank you so much, Nicholas, for being here, for spending time with these people and with me.
Thank you for having me. It was
Yeah.
really fun. It was fun to chat and share thoughts with these wonderful young pianists. And,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And if you, the audience, want to learn more about Nicholas, you can go to his website, nicholasnamaradze.com, to follow his performances and just really be a fan of his, like I am. And
Oh, thank you.
if you want to sign up to be a performing student in the next Piano Star Masterclass, you can go to our website at www.thepianoleague.com. If you want to watch, if you want to watch our next episodes, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And with that, that's the end of our Piano Star Masterclass. And thank you, everyone. Happy practicing, everyone. And we will see you guys next time.